Ahead and get started here. I'm just gonna do a welcome. I'm happy to see everyone this morning. Happy to be together, and coming off of a great diversity discussion last month. That was really good. It was helpful to me, and got some great feedback. So that was awesome. So thank you for all of that. This particular subject actually came out of the forum. A couple people actually had wanted to know more about admin work. How are we doing it? Legal, um, I don't know why it's gone though. Oh, paralegals is the word that I was trying to get. Thank you for your patience. How people are utilizing paralegals and all of that. And in the environment that we're in right now, it's happening everywhere. People are losing resources, and then how do we maximize on the resources that we do have? What does it look like for growth in those regards? So this discussion, hopefully, we're really, really relying on you guys to kind of jump in and talk about kind of what you're doing, what's been working, what hasn't been working. Chris will lead the discussion, but it would be super helpful just to get even in the shifting of all things and how you were working and how you're working now. And so we're just looking forward to that. The agenda would be, we're going to talk about experiences with, and I'm looking at my notes just so you know why I'm looking to the right there. Experiences with pooling resources, best practices, handling the change management component, because that is a huge piece. Lessons learned so that we can support each other in whatever side of the wall we're on. And then just and then we have the great paralegal optimization presentation that happened last year. And Chris was just saying, it seemed like it's hard to believe it was a year ago, but there's some great information that we can use out of that as well. And then we'll just close it out after that with housekeeping stuff and next month's meeting and things of that nature. So with that said, again, so happy to have you guys with us. I will pass it on to Chris.
Oh, thank you so much, Dawn. And it is wonderful to see everybody again. Hope you're having a good month so far, through a bizarre couple of first days of November, but I hope everybody's well. And it's an open discussion, so feel free to jump in whenever you would like. Like Dawn had said, this is really a topic that had originated out of the forum. And we'd have several posts about pooling admin resources, pooling paralegal resources, people that had done it before, people that were considering doing it, how it was going, what sort of best practices that we had, and what could we pick up, and what has worked and what should you stay away from. So I'm certainly happy to kind of kick things off here with everyone and tell you about what we've done at Walgreens and what we did at Walgreens. And we attempted to sort of pool and maybe not pool, but sort of cross-train our paralegals and our admins a number of years ago. And we're probably thinking back to like late 2016, early 2017 when we did that. Cross-training in the different practice areas for both paralegals and admins. And then what we did before that was we took the admin position and we got rid of it. We made it we took all of our admin help and we made them coordinators. We gave them, it was a little bit more money. It was a little bit more responsibility as well. That seemed to work very well for us, especially on the admin side. We attempted to cross-train the paralegals as well to have them work in different practice areas. That worked for a little bit, didn't seem to stick, unfortunately. It was just, a lot of the attorneys were of the opinion, hey, I need my paralegal. It's, why are they doing employment law work? They should be doing commercial litigation work. So that one didn't really stick as well as the admin function stuck. And as of today, we still have our admins, which are mostly cross-trained and can work across different practice areas. Many of them work with our e-billing system rather, and assist with sort of that greater project. It has been very beneficial to us, I will say, just because when the pandemic hit and we weren't able to have everybody in the office, we did have enough admins sort of coming in throughout the course of the week to get everything done as a department. So that has been a really sort of unexpected, huge benefit with us not being in the office as often as we were. So that worked out really well. Unfortunately, like I said, the paralegal sort of pooling or that cross training with the paralegals worked for about 6 months, and then everyone just kind of decided with the leadership team that it just wasn't working, and so they sort of went back to the way that it was. The paralegals working with specific attorneys and working in specific practice areas. And I think that has really, I mean, it's really the admin cross training and the pooling of the admins and having them be able to work across different practice areas has been so helpful. And it's something that I think it's been successful for us so far. And I think it's certainly something that will continue. So I think we'd love to hear your thoughts on what's going on at your organizations and how that's going, or if you've got questions for some people that have already done this, feel free to, put them out, and we will attempt to answer your questions and do what we can to help you out.
Yeah, and feel free to drop questions in the chat if you want as well.
Thank you.
I have that open so that I can look at that as well. And just for our organization, we're not as fancy that way. So we just have a couple of, we have our admin group, which we have 3 admins, not dedicated to anyone in particular. We have 2 paralegals that work to support, someone has back, could we mute listening to anyone unless we're talking? Thank you. And then I'll call on you, Carlson. And then, anyway, so we have a couple people kind of supporting. We're all cross-trained, so everyone can kind of fall in wherever they need to. We also have a Paris office that is not very well supported. I'm actually working on that process right now as to how we can get them supported a little bit better. But yeah, that's pretty much where we are. We just haven't had any particular program. We're looking to see how to progress paralegals because we're considering that idea of going away from the admin space. So this is going to be great conversation. So we are not as organized, but what we have right now is working okay. So that's kind of where we are. So it'd be good to, looks like Chris, and I'm sorry, actually, Carlton, did you have something you wanted to contribute before I go to the chat? Okay, so then, so Chris, there's a note here that says, were your admins assigned to specific attorneys before the switch?
I saw that, Harold, and they were sort of indirectly assigned to attorneys. They were more assigned to the practice areas and the different groups. So they were sort of indirectly assigned to those attorneys by virtue of their being assigned to the group, if that helps, or if that makes sense.
And interested in how you presented the pooled admin approach and how it was received. The person that, would you mind telling me your first name?
It's Glacelda.
Glacelda, okay. I attempted and I thought, don't do it.
It's okay.
Don't do it. Thank you so much, Glacelda. That is her question.
Yeah, so I'm from Humana, and I manage 2 admins right now. And right now we are in separate practice groups or departments. That's how we are set up here at Humana Law Department. But we have considered this. We are thinking about this. So I'm just really curious to see how this works, how you presented this approach. I could definitely see how this may not be well received by the paralegals because it seems to be more of a SME function, and that's how we have, and that's how pretty much how we function here at Humana in the law department, because we're so concentrated with the type of work that we do. And I could see where that might be with the paralegals, but I could see also too with the pooled, the administration staff, where they could definitely cross function. And obviously we are also trying to figure out the balance of the resources, because while one admin may not have enough work, and then across another practice group, you may have one who is, very overwhelmed. So we are trying to figure that out and how we can, across the board, make sure that there is a definite balance of workload, and so that not one is just overburdened and the other one is, So definitely like to know how you approached that, how you presented it, and how was it received.
And that's for Chris.
Or anyone that would like to opine.
Okay.
What we tried to do was we tried to pool it within the larger groups. So the admins that we had within like the litigation function were cross-trained and could work across commercial and employment and tort litigation, our pharmacy law group, our government litigation group. We tried it also in our contract group, which is sort of the other half of the legal department. And to sort of, be to more of our contracting groups. So real estate law, our managed markets legal, our healthcare services legal. So we tried to keep the work familiar. We weren't asking a litigation admin to support a contracting function or vice versa. And again, it seemed to work much better on the admin side than it did on the paralegal side. But I think to Griselda's point, I think there's that concept of SME and really having that subject matter expertise. Sometimes it just doesn't translate, or it's just hard to sort of cross that divide between the different groups. But we welcome anyone's thoughts on that, so please feel free to jump in.
Hey, this is Rebecca. I did something like this a few years ago, before investigation started. I'm from the University of Central Florida, for those of you. We have always had, I've done like Chris, the admin and that. Throughout the years, what I've done with my group is I've gone through periods of times where I evaluated their jobs. I've also done the cross-training, a lot of the cross-training. Same with Chris, the paralegal stuff or the coordinators, they have their specific jobs. But around 3 years ago, we were going through Board of Trustees investigations and Board of Governors investigations for crazy that happened at UCF. And I found myself having to change even the coordinators in order for the office to function. What I did was, I know my people very well, so I took what their strengths were and what their weaknesses were within their personalities, their characters, and what I knew that they can handle. I ended up changing 2 persons, completely different jobs. How I dealt with that so that I wouldn't have like a grievance or anything like that. I build relationships with my people. So it was very sensitive at the beginning, because one felt like she was being demoted while the other one felt like, I don't want to be this person's assistant because I'm a coordinator. But what I did with that was that I reassured them that the changes in their jobs was going to be better for them. Not only that, it was going to train them even more. It was going to give them an opportunity to grow in different areas. So that's how I dealt with it personally with the individuals that I did. But had I not made that change within the office, we would have found ourselves in pretty big trouble. It was a very stressful period for us. So I don't regret it. And now I have all of them just working efficiently in what they're doing.
Rebecca, did you find that by sort of using, trying to make that personality match, did you find that made the change management component a little easier?
Yes. I manage a lot by personality in my office. Like my boss says, my biggest job is to keep the peace,
Yes.
like between everyone. So I manage a lot on personality. I manage a lot on the relationship building. So in that aspect, it worked. I knew that the changes that I was doing between both of these individuals would work eventually. It was just very sensitive, and I was able to get through it because of my past with them. It made the change a little bit more easier to deal with.
Thank you for that. Mary Beth actually asked a great question in regard to this, and I think it's just going to tail off of what Rebecca just mentioned and how she went about those shifts. And just basically when you just have a lot of work and not enough support, like you have all the work coming and you have not enough support, and just trying to figure out, you can't get buy-in to get additional support. So how do you navigate that with what you have? And I think that a part of that may be, and Mary Beth, you can speak to this because I'm not sure if this is, Rebecca mentioned about the relationships and knowing and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your staff. I've run into that in my group, but I realized that I wasn't, I had them in their role, but I didn't necessarily have them in their strengths. And so when I was able to rework that, it really did help out. And eventually we got more assistance. But I'm not sure, Mary Beth, does that play a role? Is that something you already worked with and you still are having issues, or did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's more that, it's been we've had reductions in administrative support over time, and I just constantly struggle with, both attorneys and paralegals still thinking that they need, particularly the paralegals and other legal specialists, thinking they need this real high level of support. And it's like, well, okay, but I just don't have that bandwidth anymore. And, get the whole, well, if my time is more valuable, so I shouldn't have to do this and I shouldn't have to do that. And it's kind of like, well, I know, but there's 40 hours in a day, in a week for my staff. So I just have this constant struggle to get people to sort of change or to look at change, and they still want the support that they may have had when we had 5 administrative assistants and now we're down to 3. So it's just and maybe it's a personality thing and I'm just not getting my point across with them. I bang my head against the wall a lot of days on that one.
I've learned, I've practiced several things with my group throughout the years. One is not only, I do it on purpose. One, I review their jobs on a yearly basis. What's coming in? What are they doing? What needs to get done? How effective are they being? And I have them give to me, a list. What have you done this year? I almost type like evaluation. That serves 2 purposes. One, it gives me more feedback on some things that I may not know that they're doing. And second, it lowers their, how would you say that? It's psychological. It lowers their, oh, why is she doing this? Or why are we going through this? It lowers that anxiety with them. So when you start practicing something like this, like on a yearly basis, they're expecting it. And they're saying, oh, this is just our yearly review. So that's one thing I've done with my group. The second, especially now with the pandemic and having to be remote and things like that, what I've done is that I actually, and it's time consuming, but it's effective also. I not only do our group meetings, but I do one-on-one Zoom meetings with my people. And when I'm doing those one-on-one Zoom meetings with them, it helps, it creates not only that relationship, but then it gives you the ability to explain to them, hey, we're short on budget. We can't afford to hire anybody else, but I need a little bit more from you. I need this from you. Let's work together as this team. So I've created this team environment where, at least in my group, we all chip in because we know at the end of the day, the work needs to get done, and we all have jobs, basically. That's the way, and that's basically what I've done with them.
Thank you. And just to speak to the other side of that too, is there anyone that has had Mary Beth's issue as far as getting the attorneys and the paralegals to kind of understand her situation? Has anyone run into that where it's hard to kind of say, hey guys, this is kind of all we have? So and to get them to get on board, is there anyone had that issue and been successful?
Yeah.
This is
My
Diana.
Oh, so go ahead.
Go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, my name's Lisa Wish, and we've been using a pool of admin staff for about 6 years now. It was really hard to get the lawyers on board initially with doing some of their own things, but we found that by slowly bringing in technology, they were so paper focused, right? Everything had to be printed, all 300 pages. Everything had to be like, they would handwrite their notes, and we would then have to type them out for them. So it took us a while to just train them on new technology to show them how it made their lives easier. And then as it freed up more and more time for us to do other things for them, I kept pounding into them, getting the lowest paid person who's able to do the job well, doing the job. Our lawyers, they've become very penny conscious. So that has helped. We've also, we struggle with workloads quite often, but we've found that we have several receptionists in our building. So we found that we can actually transfer over some of the non-confidential things, some of the things that they can do at their desks for us while they're waiting for people to come in. And it gives them a bit of opportunity for career development too, as they're gaining new skills in word processing and things. So we found that reaching out to other departments has helped, especially in this pandemic environment. We put to the whole company, if people did have lower workloads because things like travel had been reduced or things changed. So by reaching out to the company, to other departments and saying, we have some projects, does anybody want to jump in and learn how legal does things? We got a lot of help that way too.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And was it Diana that was gonna speak?
And it was basically along the same lines as Lisa. When I first got into this business many moons ago, the legal ops people were considered the assistants to everybody. And, even the AAs believed that we were there to do their work for them or do things for them. And it was a rude awakening. I can't tell you how many people, AAs would come into my office and say, your people aren't doing their work. They're supposed to do this and this for me. I'm not supposed to do it. I'm like, well, and Lisa brought up the point, we had introduced a lot of automation. We said, well, you can get that online right now. You don't have to have it printed for you. If you want to print it, you go online, you print it. And our job is to make sure the data is accurate. So it was constantly going at, I went in and really defined. I sat down with every paralegal. I sat down with the paralegal group. I sat down with the AA group. I sat down with the junior attorneys group and said, this is what we're here to do. This is, and I was the opportunity because I was new, was saying, this is how I'm going to do this. And, it means we all are changing. And, you did get pushback. I mean, like I said, I had people running into my office yelling at me that, so-and-so, I've been calling her. She didn't do this. She gave me a link to something. Who does she think she is? And she's supposed to print it and bring it to my office. And I'm like, no, her job is to make sure the data is accurate. She put it out there. You click the print if you want to print it. Otherwise, you just look it up online. But the other thing I was going to say was I had 100% plus support from the GC. 100% plus support from the GC. And that's what did it, I think, because, that was always there. Yes, there was a change management, and yes, this was, people grumpy and groaning about the whole thing. But I think, having that, continuous, hey, this group is here to do this. We're trying to improve. This is how our process is improving, bringing it up on, town hall meetings. Hey, we've gotten this new improvement out of here. All of that helped. And that's getting the GC's approval.
That's great. That's great. And I think one thing to your point, and then give me just a second here. One thing to your point, Dan, is that when you said you came in and you were new, so you were kind of able to push the bar. I think that this season allows us that. I think that with all of the changes and all of the expectations shifting, and I think that we could use that as a part of the power in pushing things to say, hey, look, we're not the same, we're not operating the same as we were in March. Like this is a different, it's a different thing. So thank you for that. I think that that can be used in presenting change and encouraging people to jump in. Thanks, Harold, for your patience. Go right ahead. All right. I feel like I'm the only voice that I hear. So am I frozen?
No, you're not frozen.
I'll tack on to what Diana was saying. I mean, one of the messages that was helpful for us, especially talking with the senior leadership of the attorneys, is just the reality that we're in we're not getting more headcount, right? So we need to make the best use we can of the headcount that we have. So if you want that level of support, like print it out and bring it to my desk, I mean, there's a cost to that, and it's not getting another paralegal, it's not getting another attorney, it's not getting the data analyst that we can use more, right? So we have to decide the best way to deploy our resources, and there's no reason you can't look it up online, and that means we can deploy that headcount more efficiently. So I think people just have to adjust their minds to the appropriate level of service that you need now to function as a department. And that's easier said than done, and I think having the GC understanding and pushing that is a big help there, but that's just the reality of the situation. The way we're working has changed. I mean, even things like processing expenses, Concur makes that really easy, right? Just click a couple buttons and do it. You don't really need an assistant to do that kind of stuff for you anymore. So, it's tough to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes, I guess. So you might get some pushback, but I think that's technology has really helped drive some of that.
That's really, really good. There's some questions in the chat, but one thing I wanted to address is that the pooled organization. So what does that look like? So there's some questions there that are saying, who reports to whom? Like, what does that structure look like? Is anyone able to speak to that for their organization?
I mean, we're similar to, I think, what Chris described and what a number of people are describing in the chat, where before we did sort of the pool concept, the admins reported to individual practice groups. Now they all report to me. And it's sort of a hybrid situation where most people do have quote unquote dedicated support that they can go to if they really are in a pinch. So they know, I can go to Sally or Carol or whomever, right? But for project things, I've got them really in the habit of coming to our shared mailbox, because we can pair them up with the person that has the proper skill set. I mean, if it's, say, a heavy Excel project, maybe one of the assistants is stronger than another on that kind of thing, or PowerPoint or whatever it may be that they need. And I think they've seen that kind of bear itself out. So that's helped with adoption of the pool concept. But we always have kind of the safety net there of like, if you're really in a pinch, this is the person you can go to. And that's really helped.
Good deal. Thanks, Don. Anyone else want to jump in?
In our organization, our coordinators and admin report to me, and the attorneys report to our deputy. But I find that this has helped with the coordinators and the admin, because there are things that they don't want to speak to with the attorneys, or they don't want to say to the attorneys, that they have that trust in me in order to tell me what's going on or what issue may be going on, the difference, with the attorneys and that, then I'm able to deal with the deputy general counsel and we work things out. So that has worked for us. That's what it keeps the peace.
Thanks, Rebecca. That's great.
So if I could jump in for a second, I asked the question on the org structure because we have like a quasi approach similar to what you guys have described, in that they have direct support to the attorneys and they have their person that they go to, but then I coordinate the department-wide tasks, contract uploads, mail support, those types of things. In our structure, everyone reports into my position, the paralegals, the admins, etc. What I'm finding is, as the structure gets bigger, because we've grown substantially over the years, I went from having 10 direct reports to having 20 direct reports. So when you also have financial support, systems, everything else, then I'm starting to say, okay, how do we manage this as we move forward? Because it's great when you're smaller to have everybody report to your position, but as you grow, then how do you coordinate it?
I found myself in a similar boat, not in this position, but in a previous one. And eventually we gave the paralegals back, similar to what maybe Chris described at the beginning of the call, where it sort of felt disingenuous at times because I was giving a paralegal performance review on something that I really knew very little about. And so that sort of dynamic, like the paralegals liked reporting to operations in a way because we paid attention to them. We'd have monthly meetings, keep them in the loop, like management stuff that sometimes they weren't getting consistently. But it just proved to not really work as well as the admin. So that's how I eventually saw that problem, is we kind of sent them back to where they were, and it right-sized it again. But it's a tough spot.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now, is we're starting to hand some of the paralegals back off because I've gone and said, like, listen, you got to choose, what do you want me to work on? Where's my value add, right? But, you know, there's also resistance from the paralegals because they don't want to go back to reporting to the attorneys. They didn't feel like they got as much support or as much feedback or as much, you know, and so that's what we're trying to balance.
Has anyone had, or for you guys, have you had like so we're in a position now where I normally, I'm over our administrative assistant group, but I find that situation, Don, that I'm kind of feeling like sometimes I'm so far away from the thing that they're doing, and they're asking me, hey, what do you think the best thing to do is? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? And so I do empower them and stay with them and stay connected to them as far as their work as much as I can. I meet with them weekly, and I'm open to them anytime that they need me. But you know, my idea is to grow one of them into a lead, so that that person is their day-to-day, and then that lead would report to me about what's happening, and then I can support that idea. But just like you said, my struggle and kind of space in that is just that I'm getting so far away from the day-to-day of the work that they do. They'll ask me questions about billing or things, and I'm just like, you know, it's going to take me longer to figure out and remember what we're supposed to be doing than it would be for you to just go ask someone else. So thank you for that, because that's encouraging.
And Dawn, that's really so true. I mean, it's just so many of us just have an operations focus rather than the substantive focus of litigation, disputes, contracts, employment law, IP law, anything like that. It really is hard, and we've, from a reporting standpoint, we've kept those people in the practice areas.
Okay.
Just for that, yeah, it was becoming kind of unwieldy, much like Don and Susan have experienced it. It was just getting too hard to try to corral all those horses.
Yeah, what my old boss at the other place, I think the way he eventually solved this was that now once a month he meets with that paralegal group, sort of like, so they get a little taste of the management piece. They're keeping him in the loop, but not the awkward piece of trying to give, you know, substantive performance reviews on things that we don't really understand. So maybe that's an option to keep them in the loop.
I'm a little bit jealous of you all that have these vast staffs. We have one admin and we have one paralegal. And more to Dawn's point, my paralegal is getting so far advanced, she's dealing directly with the attorneys. I'm a paralegal by trade, but she reports to me, and she's getting so advanced in what she's doing. I really, you know, I need to meet with the attorneys that she's working with so I can understand all the things that she's involved in now. And we're actually at a conversation, you know, she's a non-exempt employee, an exempt employee, and we're wondering, as her duties grow, we move her to that, you know, non-exempt position. So those are some of the discussions we're having, but we do a lot of cross training where, you know, 600 people, bunch of subsidiaries, and we just have one paralegal and one admin for legal. Excuse me, for the all of legal in the whole company. So this conversation is great, and I think it's always a very lively topic when we talk about paralegals. So thanks for all the feedback, everyone.
Yeah, and Jen, I just wanted to call on Jen Roth. She's like, why are you calling on me? Jen is actually my manager. She's our deputy GC. And I just wanted I wanted you to speak to the paralegal because of how we've used Beth and kind of went from one thing to the next. And then, and I said we have two paralegals, but the person we just hired actually is an attorney. So I just, I remember that. So we actually only have one paralegal as well. But if you could speak to her progression and how she kind of transitioned, because she supports our attorneys directly as well.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk to that. So we hired a paralegal, I don't know, probably about 8 years ago. And she's been slowly given more and more opportunities over the years. And now, for all intents and purposes, is really doing the work of an attorney. She negotiates contracts, she redlines contracts, she responds to RFPs. She does, well, a lot of our sort of baseline attorney, maybe like a 2 to 4 year attorney would do. So the plan was this year to hire another Beth. Her name is Beth, and sort of train that new person to do, again, like baseline agreements, BAAs, NDAs, respond to low-level RFPs, that sort of thing. We ended up hiring our intern instead. So I now have a baby attorney instead of a contract manager, which is what we were hoping to hire. But I think the issue we run into is when we bring in what we call, they're paralegals, but we call them contract managers. They tend to advance out of that contract manager position relatively quickly, if you're thinking about like a 3 to 5 year turnaround time period. So that's what we've done. I think that issue is trying to keep them in their box, sort of, so to speak. Trying to keep them, that paralegal contract manager level position, interested in what they're doing, because what we really need them to focus on are those low level contracts and free up our attorneys to do a little bit more of the more complicated type work. Did that?
Yeah, and Beth also reports to Jen, so she
Yeah.
doesn't report to me. I'm our legal operations manager, but she doesn't report to me, she reports to Jen, which for us makes sense because I don't know anything about law.
Yeah, and Dawn does a great job of managing the admins. She made it sound like she's so out of touch with what they're doing, but she's doing a really, really great job. I think the other issue we run into, I can't even imagine having 20 direct reports. I have 8 right now, and I'm losing my mind. So I'm promoting from an attorney from within my team to handle what will eventually be our paralegal function, contract manager paralegal function within our department.
Thank you for letting me call on you.
Of course.
And I'm sorry, someone else was going to speak. Okay, go ahead.
This is Diana, and this is for you, Susan. One of the things that we do is we have managing paralegals. So we have a group of paralegals who manage other paralegals. So that these are paralegals who have much more experience, can lead, have those skills. So it's kind of good for them because it gives them an opportunity to do some management and leadership types of things, and they get to explore, and it allows the other paralegals who are less experienced have somebody they can go to and have that chit chat about the day to day, and this is what I'm experiencing. And I have somebody who can. And to Rebecca, to what you were saying, who can understand them and, knows the pain, let's say. And, we found that successful in kind of grouping them. And then some of our managing paralegals even we have the AAs reporting to them. So that, again, they get the management things they need, the leadership things they need, and they're getting it from somebody who does have an understanding of that particular area of law or particular area that they're in. But they're getting, I think as Rebecca says, what I've heard, and have been in different companies with, it's always, the most of the AAs and paralegals feel like they're not listened to. Nobody listens to them. And nobody takes their suggestions and stuff. And, so I've always been, you don't, even though you don't report to me, you can come and talk to me anytime. You got an idea and nobody's listening to you come talk to me, and I've done that with many of them. Just come talk to me because, I can at least approach it a different way. I don't have to use names. If you don't want names used, we have a sense there. But we found that managing paralegal kind of helped to, you didn't have all these paralegals, reporting to one person. You kind of break them up into groups and you find, and everybody, and then it gives those paralegals who are just paralegals a place to go. Hey, I one day could be a managing paralegal. You know, if I want to choose to go that way and I want to be a leader and I want to, you know, do the management thing, I have a place to go to be a management. So that's a suggestion.
Yeah, it's actually a structure that I proposed. However, you know, I think you have said you've had good general counsel support. I haven't had that experience. So I think that's been part of the problem, because I see it the same way, as it's a growth factor. It's a career path that allows paralegals to grow. But it's kind of been a struggle at the current place to get that buy-in.
So have you tried HR? So they're another place that you may want to, I mean, I don't know how your HR is, but I've, you know, using HR as the tool too, because, you know, they're the ones about, we're supposed to be treating our employees, empowering employees. Sometimes you can bring them in and say, hey, you know, here's what we'd like to do, and team up with them, because I've seen that happen too.
Yeah, I think the problem in my current organization is that, you know, there's a very clear divide between attorneys and staff. And I haven't seen that in all organizations, but the current one, there's a very clear divide. And so staff aren't really viewed as professional development aspects. So that's the struggle. And so HR has been part of those conversations. They have not been necessarily as supportive as I'd like to see. So, you know, that's my current struggle. We're going to just keep trying to work through it and keep hammering at that.
Okay. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. Okay. Anyone else have anything that we did not answer, or questions that we may have missed, or things you had to say and we were chatting so you couldn't get in?
I was curious as to like how many admins you have based on the number of attorneys you have. Like we're starting to cut it pretty thin, where I have 3 admins now and we have about almost 60 attorneys. So the span has gotten pretty big. So I was curious as to what the trend was there.
I'm trying
Yeah,
to
I can
count
jump.
down.
Oops, sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Susan.
I was just going to say we're averaging about 5 to 7 attorneys. It really depends on, you know, what each of the roles are, because we found that some of the support structures, like in IP, for example, because we do a lot of intellectual property, we need more admins than in some of the other areas, because there's a lot of signing of power of attorneys and preparation of documents, etc. But in general, our average is about 5 to 7 attorneys for one admin.
Don, we're real similar to the ratio that Susan has. We have 8 coordinators for about 57 attorneys at Walgreens. So that ratio is pretty close to what Susan has.
Sorry. I was going to say too, I do think it depends on what they're doing, because if you're just doing expense reports or travel or some of that stuff, you can obviously support more. My last company I was at was much more of that straight administrative work, less legal substantive type of stuff. So that's where it really depends on what the role is as an admin. Yeah, I think it varies across different organizations.
So Dawn and I and our legal department went through a company-wide, hold on one second. Alexa, dismiss. Gotta get my 5-year-old back into kindergarten here in a second. We went through an exercise, the whole actually corporate environment is going through an exercise right now where we're kind of measuring our operations and where we can find efficiencies and things like that. One of the things that we did as a department was try to figure out what that ratio should be and whether there's sort of like published materials out there. We did find something on ACC, which was an overall comparison to how many attorneys to how many staff other companies are like similar size. I cannot remember where we found it right now, but it exists.
Benchmark stuff.
Yeah. And then we did talk to a couple other firms like ours, our size, similar professional services type environments, just to get an idea of how much support staff they had in comparison to the number of attorneys. What we discovered was that we were well below what we should be from a support perspective, and then asked for more support this year, and amazingly got it. So for next year. So it's fantastic. But there are lots of resources out there to figure out what that ratio should be for a given segment.
Right. So it is now 8:46, and I'm just curious if there's anything that someone just really wanted to get more information about from this group that could be supportive to them, or just any questions or insights that we have that we can take away. Do we have anything that is burning?
Can someone describe to me the distinction between an admin and a coordinator?
Robin, I'm happy to explain it from our legal department standpoint. Back when I first started with the legal department, we had admins and they did the traditional administrative work for what our attorneys wanted, printing and typing letters and different things like that. And what we tried to do when we moved them from administration to or administrators rather to coordinators is to give them more substantive work. So not only doing expense reports, but doing, invoice review, and, a great number of our coordinators are notaries and sort of helping out the contract group that way. And we've tried to push that lower level sort of admin work off on technology. And we've tried to get our attorneys on board with, hey, you can do this. And we've heard it from a couple of people on the call today, just, you can go find that yourself, or you can use the technology to get that information, or to print those documents, or to proofread those documents. There's a tool out there for that. So that's the way that we've tried to approach it. And it seems to be working pretty well. They enjoy the higher level work. We are able to sort of leverage that technology, and it's actually, as we go through our performance goals for the year, our fiscal year starts in September, and that is one of our legal department goals, is to continue to leverage that technology to push that lower level work off on the technology and the tools that we have to focus the people on the higher level work. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope it gives a little bit of insight.
It does, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I think that, to Jen's point, to our group, our department, our company, we just did a lot of research. I will say that ACC was really supportive and resourceful in getting our questions answered and providing. One thing I found super helpful is that you can ask someone a question and they're like, I don't know, but here's an email, check with this person. They navigated that or dealt with that at some point along the line. And so just to push to encourage you to really utilize this group, utilize ACC's resources. If you have questions, send those in. I mean, this is how this came about, is people were like, hey, how are we doing this? And we saw that it's done over and over, people asking the same question. So that's what brought about this. And so we're all kind of in the same boat in regard to, the resources that we are having. I mean, like we did get resources for next year, but we're so far under that is not going to catapult us into this amazing space of evenness. It's not. We needed this a long time. So, but at the same time, keep pushing, because those things will happen. It will come about between technology and just life changing. So just keep working hard, and again, using us as a resource anywhere possible. I'm going to include in a resource in the chat about with job descriptions for legal ops, and just hopefully that'll be helpful, just looking at those things and being able to help break down some ideas on how you can put things together. And with that said, I'm going to pass off back to Chris. He's going to talk, bring us to a close with some information that we have. Again, I think this stuff will be helpful to you as well. So go right ahead.
Absolutely. And Dawn, I would just echo your thoughts. We have such a wealth of resources in the internal resources group. Feel free to reach out by way of email or the forum. We have such a wonderful group of people. They will always help you in any way they can. So I just echo that sentiment, Dawn. That is so well said. So thank you for that. Okay. Just to get everybody kind of caught up on some housekeeping stuff, for lack of a better way to describe it. Next month's meeting, we are currently working on a joint session with the Silicon Valley Regional Group. We're trying to secure a guest speaker on overcoming adversity. So just want to let everyone know we might be changing the time to accommodate our friends on the West Coast for that. We might change the date just based on the speaker's availability. We will certainly reach out once we have everything finalized. We'll let you know what time and date that is. We'll also get in on the forum so that everyone knows, and hopefully we get a great crowd for that. So more to follow on that. And some general housekeeping activities. Just a quick reminder that we'll put in a plug for our sister group in Tools and Technology. Their Who Uses What survey is out right now, and they are looking for responses. So if you are so inclined to participate in that survey, that would really be greatly appreciated. And it's something that all of the interest groups use. So we encourage your participation in that, and thank you for your consideration. Also want to let you know that the ACC Law Department Compensation Benchmarking Report is now available. A good amount of information on paralegal staffing in the Policies and Practices Report. A lot of good information in the Compensation Benchmarking Report as well. So if you're just looking at different levels and sort of compensation and different information around those levels, that is a wonderful resource, and I encourage you to take a look at that. And we had the ACC Legal Ops Observer hit your mailbox this morning. The November edition is out. A lot of good information, a lot of helpful things, and the schedule of November events for ACC Legal Ops. So look for that in your inbox, or if you're like me, it ends up in your junk box. So look for it in your folder. It's probably there somewhere, but a lot of good information. So thank you to Doreen and staff for putting that together. And I think that's all we have for housekeeping, although Doreen, please keep me honest. Is that what we have?
Oh, you've covered it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, and I will kick it back to Dawn to
Beautiful.
Finish us up.
You like that dance?
I hope I'm pointing the right way here.
We're good then. I love it. I just want to just essentially thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for always showing up. I would like to speak to our self-care piece that we will continue to always do. There's a lot going on right now. Please take care of yourself. I find that the best way to do that is not to get caught up in what I'm supposed to be doing, but to center myself in what I need to be doing and stay focused in that. And so hopefully that will give you the support that you need, I don't know, to get through today and for me to tonight so that I can have a drink and relax. Anyway, so thank you so much. I want to say, I hope that we see you next month. We're really excited about this. I think that's going to be just a great way to end the year and to have a happy Thanksgiving and take care of each other. And please, again, if I can't say it enough, reach out to us if there's anything we can do to support you. We are here and happy and excited to do that. And unless anyone has any last moment things, we can give you about 6 minutes back to you.
Wait.
Doreen has something.
Yeah, I just have one more thing, and thank you, Dawn, for pinging me in the chat. We had a presenter, Lori Hansen from Mutual of Omaha, do a presentation on optimizing paralegals, and so that has been recorded. I've pulled it out of archive, and I'm going to upload that as a resource as well, along with her slides. It was a really insightful how they move from exempt to non-exempt and how some of the challenges along the way. So this might be a complement to what you guys have been talking about today. So I'll be uploading that as a resource.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Doreen. All right, all have a lovely day. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much.
Take care.